Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about pollution solutions. Today we will learn new vocabulary that will help us to identify and talk about pollution. We will apply concepts from our last lesson to strengthen our understanding of Earth systems, and we will brainstorm ways to keep trash out of the environment. Here are some of the vocabulary words that we will be focusing on today. Feel free to pause the screen and write these words and the definitions down in your garden journals, or just repeat the words out loud after me. Our first word is a big word, non-degradable. Can you say non-degradable? It means unable to break down. Can you think of some objects that take a very long time to break down? I think of some things like metal or plastic. Our next word is decomposition. Have you heard this word before? We learned about it in our first lesson, but because it is so important, we are going to go over it again. This means the breaking down of organic matter with the help of invertebrates or microorganisms. It might be easier to think about it as when bugs help to turn plants like leaves, branches, and vegetables into soil. Our next word is pollution. Pollution is something that has entered the environment that has a harmful or poisonous effect. So, this could be something either non-degradable or something organic that breaks down quickly. Repeat after me. Marine debris. Let's break this down. Marine is another word for ocean. Debris is another word for garbage. So what do you think that this means? Pollution that has made its way into the ocean. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a very good thing to me. Our final word is human impact. Sometimes positive, but often negative effect that humans have on nature. If you have already participated in our watershed lesson, these terms might be familiar to you. Cup your hands together like you see in the picture. Imagine that your fingers are the tops of mountains and that all of your hand wrinkles are streams and rivers. Imagine that the ocean is where your wrists meet. What happens when we introduce pollution into our watershed? How does the movement of water direct garbage into our oceans? Can you imagine how pollution on land might become marine debris? Take a look at the following photographs and think about how the garbage may have gotten here. Is it decomposing or is it non-degradable? Unfortunately, it doesn't just end when trash makes its way into the sea. Strong ocean currents can then drag trash items thousands of miles away. Can you imagine your grocery bag turning up in Hawaii? Take some time to look at how long it takes for these trash items to break down. It looks like it can take some things 400 years to decompose. Now it's time to hear from your garden teacher.
So today I am here with the compost bin at the garden, and we're going to look inside and see what is decomposing. You learned in the video about how there are different sorts of pollutants in the environment, and some of those pollutants are the things that don't break down. In fact, most of the pollutants that we have to be concerned about, most of the litter, are materials that can't break down, because if it can break down and turn into soil, then it's fine if it's out there in the natural world. It's not hurting anything, and it's actually making really good soil for the garden and can be used and kind of enter the natural cycle in that way. However, there are some things like plastic, metal. Those are the things that are coming to my mind. Synthetic materials that maybe like polyester clothes versus cotton. Those things are, styrofoam, that's a good one. Those things take a long time to break down. So maybe you can think about some items that you have at home that if they were left outside, they would become litter. And maybe you can think about some items that you have that if they were left outside, they would decompose. Where would you find them? Maybe in your fridge, or maybe you would find them outside. So this compost system is a way that you can use that natural waste, that waste that will decompose, and make it useful again. So I am going to look in here and look at this. Curious if any of you know what this is. It looks a lot different than how it looked when it was growing in the garden, but it is a vegetable. Usually it's green. Right now it's yellow, and it got really big. It's a zucchini, and this zucchini is starting to decompose. It's starting to turn back into the soil, and I see some decomposers in action. I see a pincher bug. I don't know if you can see that. And I see mold, which mold is something that we could have talked about a little bit more in the soil lesson, but it is a decomposer. And when I open this up, it's full of mold. So we typically don't like mold, because if something's moldy, it means we don't want to eat it. It means that that thing is already turning into soil. So it's not good to eat, but it's really good for turning things into soil for the garden. Look at all of that. There's black mold. It's pretty gross. I don't want to smell it. I'm gonna see if there's anything else in here. Here's a paper plate, and this paper plate is covered in mold. This was from a while back when we made some tasty food and put it on these plates. It might have been a garden salad or a garden taco. And now this plate is already starting to decompose. So this plate is decomposable. It's a paper plate, and yes, you can compost it. What if it was a plastic plate? Could I put it in there and expect it to decompose? No. That would take a really long time. And even then, when it broke down, it would turn into something like plastic sand. And when it became that plastic sand, that wouldn't really be good for the soil. It would be adding chemicals to the soil that we don't want there. So that's an example of one type of pollution. Now we're here in the garden shed, and we're going to look at some things that are in my kit for garden education, and we're going to see what we could change in this kit to make it into a solution for pollution, rather than in something that's going to create waste and create pollution. So we'll take a moment, and you can guess and think about, do you think that the things in my kit are stuff that might turn into pollution, or do you think a lot of them are things that can decompose? Okay, well now we're going to find out. So it's not the most organized, but we will find some things out. So these are paper food trays. Do you think that this is going to cause waste, or do you think it's something that can decompose? If you thought that this was something that could decompose, you are right. The paper is going to decompose, and so this is a zero waste product. It is in a paper plastic bag though. What could I do with that plastic bag when I'm done with it to not create waste? You maybe are thinking I could throw it out, but then it's just going to go to the landfill, and eventually turn into pollution in the soil there. So maybe you thought that I could reuse it, and that is a great idea. I could maybe use it to carry my lunch sometime, or I've even seen people like turn plastic into yarn and knit with it. So maybe I could do something creative like that. All right, let's see what else is in the kit. I have some plastic cups. Do you think these plastic cups are decomposable? If you thought that these were not decomposable, you're right. Unfortunately, these plastic cups would cause pollution and waste if we end up just throwing them out afterwards, and especially if we just throw them around in the school and not pick up after ourselves. So what can we do with these plastic cups after we've had a food tasting where you've all maybe drank some orange juice out of these cups? Or maybe I will pick cherry tomatoes and put them in these cups and give them out. What can we do afterwards when we're done with the cup? Well, the best thing that you could do when it comes to plastic is to reuse them. But let's think about what happens if we're all done with these plastic cups and they've all gone off to maybe be reused for other things, and I'm in the grocery store and I want to buy some more cups. Do you think it would be good for me to buy more plastic cups, or is there something else that we could use instead? Well, the paper cups that you find, they often are lined with wax, similar to the milk cartons that you get in school lunches. So those cannot actually be recycled, and they can't actually decompose very well either. So there isn't a good solution that I'm aware of for cups. There probably are some compostable cups out there, but another thing that you could do is bring your own cup from home, and I could ask students to bring their own cups, or maybe have cups that are actually like ceramic cups or like mugs, that the kind that you would drink out of at your home maybe, or at a cafe. And those mugs, afterwards everyone would wash them. That would be a solution, a great pollution solution. So I invite you to think about what are some pollution solutions that you can come up with for the things you use. All right, see you next time.